Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. In this episode, I'm going to take a look at the underrated sequel to Balloon Fight, Balloon Kid for the Game Boy. I'm sure many of you have played Balloon Fight in one of its many releases, including the NES, Virtual Console, e-reader, or as an unlockable game in Animal Crossing. There's really no shortage of ways to play it. But the sequel has not received the same treatment. While there were a few variations released only in Japan, which we'll cover later, it was only released for the Game Boy in the US. The control in this game is almost identical to the original, with a few minor tweaks. You still use the A button to flap your arms in order to move and keep yourself afloat. The main difference is the ability to drop your balloons using the B button. This allows you to get places otherwise out of reach, get a running start, or drop on an enemy. Balloon Kid consists of 3 modes. The Balloon Trip mode is just like its NES counterpart, where you navigate through a maze of electric obstacles, and your goal is to get as far as possible without being shocked. The Versus Play mode I was unable to play without 2 copies of the game. The Single Player mode is the main game, which has individual levels and a story. This is where you'll be spending most of your time with this game. The story revolves around Jim and Alice, 2 kids who love to play with balloons. One day, Jim decides to make a rainbow by tying a ton of balloons together. Unfortunately, as Jim is holding all the balloons to make the rainbow, a strong wind comes by and carries him away. Alice sees this and goes chasing after Jim with some balloons of her own. In order to find her brother, Alice follows a trail of balloons that he has left behind. This is where the Game Boy game separates itself from the first game. In the original, your goal was to pop the enemy's balloons before they popped yours in single-screen stages. Balloon Kid focuses more on dodging enemies and obstacles in scrolling stages as you make your way to the goal at the end. Also, unlike the first game, Balloon Kid has bosses, which you encounter at the end of every other level. There are 8 stages, so that's 4 bosses total. This is where using the B button to drop your balloons will really come in handy, because you can drop down on your enemy. Unfortunately, not all enemies can be dealt with in this way. Many times, simply touching certain enemies will kill you in one hit. There is a balloon marked with a P that will occasionally show up, and if you catch it, will make you invincible for a short time. The downside to this is that it speeds up the scrolling pace of the screen, meaning less time to adjust for upcoming obstacles when your invincibility runs out. Couple all of this with the fact that you only start with 5 lives, and you have a fairly difficult game on your hands. Fortunately, there are several ways to gain extra lives along the way. First, for every 100 balloons you collect, you get an extra life. Occasionally, a random life heart will float by. And last but not least are the bonus stages. These are all like the original bonus stages from the NES Balloon Fight, where you have to catch all the balloons that emerge randomly from 4 pipes before they float off screen. If you can collect all of them without missing one, you will earn an extra life here as well. And if all else fails, at least you get 2 continues. What I really loved about this game was the music, particularly the song in the first stage because it's a remix of the original music from Balloon Fight. I felt like all of the music was really well done. Not only did they take advantage of the hardware, but they came up with several new songs specifically for this game that really suit each level. For Japanese fans, the game was released again in 2 more formats, with a few finishing touches. In Japan, the game was published again for the Game Boy Color. And not only did this port offer a more vibrant look to the game, but it also included battery backup not found in the US version of the game. This is a simple feature that probably would have made Balloon Kid more appealing to a mass audience. Another version was also released in Japan for the Famicom, with identical game mechanics, but with a Hello Kitty licensing. Ultimately, Balloon Kid is a fun but challenging game. It takes everything that was great about the original and expands on it. Is it better than the original? Well, it kinda depends. The NES game was based on an arcade game, and it's still fun after all these years. The newer game was made specifically for a handheld, and it's a totally different experience altogether. They're different, but both are really fun. I'd say Balloon Kid was an excellent sequel to an already great game, and there's no reason you can't enjoy both. Well, that's it for this episode. If you want to see more, check out videogametakeout.com. You can also check out the forums if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions. I wanted to take a second to thank all the fans that requested me back for another episode. Thanks as always for watching and supporting the show. Ben will be back next week. Until then, this is Nicole. I'll see you later.